Hello and welcome back to the weekly Astro Update. This is week 4 of August, so we're going from the 21st, did I say? 21st of August. Yeah, so we're starting with the 22nd, the Sun entering Virgo, and just into the last bit of this monthly details that we've got here. 22nd of August, the Sun entering Virgo, so that's the end of the summer months, really.
This is an aerial view of the whole month of August. So last week we spent talking about just the magnitude of the full moon and all that it illuminates, with the Jupiter Mars conjunction and with the opposition of Saturn and Venus squaring that Jupiter. So this week is a little lighter.
And Peter from AstroSeek does this really great graphic, and that shows us where the planets are going, where they've been for the whole of the month.
Well, I love that Peter does this because it gives you a visualization of just the entire zodiac, the whole zodiac. And so you see where there's movement, where there's an absence of movement. It doesn't show the moon because the moon goes through every single sign within a month. And it doesn't show the sun because the sun is primarily, at least in Leo for this month, it is ingressing into Virgo. But you get to see, okay, well, there's Saturn still over there in Pisces. You see that Pluto right there at that 0 degree of Aquarius moving backwards into Capricorn. You see how quickly Venus is moving. Usually Venus and Mercury, you see those lines kind of comparable and distance, but because Mercury is retrograde, it's kind of going back over. But you see how little the outer planets move and how quickly the inner planets move. So I like just getting that visualization. Where is going to be the swiftest change? Where are things going to be returning? Where are things going to be continue to be kind of slowed down with the retrogrades? It's just a nice visualization of the planetary movements.
But yeah, the other thing I got from this as well is we can very clearly see who's affected. And we see the mutable signs showing up here with the opposition to Saturn, Venus and Mercury traveling from, I'm going to struggle to find my words again, Virgo back to Leo. So here we're going back into the fixed energy of Leo. And we also see Gemini, another mutable sign that's squaring Virgo. So we see this is where all the action's happening, and it's really clear to see it then. When we break it down into this is squaring that, this is squaring that, it's harder to see the full picture. But here we can see this full picture of, okay, there's a lot of action here and there's a focus here. And then we've got this
the visualization, the visualization that just came through was, if you look at these almost as like raindrops, this is where water is going to be poured down to kind of feed different parts of your chart. Other parts of your chart are not going to have rain this month, but the others are going to have rain, which is nutrients, and it's life-giving, and it's maybe there's weeds there and those will also grow. But just like when we say focus on an area of a chart, just think of like the energy that you give to certain topics and subjects. The more energy you give it, the more it's going to grow. And so these mutable topics are definitely being fed this month.
Yeah. So if you're not sure what the mutable signs are, we're looking at Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and also Sagittarius, because that will have the opposition from Gemini and a square from Pisces and Virgo. And then when we're talking about the fixed signs, we're also looking at Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So those are the signs that are activated there. So if you've got your sun, moon, rising there, but also if you've got any other planets, if you don't know, you can go to astroseek.com and enter your birth data, and it will tell you. I've got a video on my YouTube that shows you how to do that if you don't know, but you can pull up your chart and get a free chart and it will tell you. And then just look for this little sign for Gemini, this little sign for Virgo, and it will tell you what house. And then I've got another video that goes through the house topics, and that's what kind of areas in your life are being activated, what kind of topics you might expect. So that's what.
And if you like the way she does that, you can hire her as an astrologer to read your chart.
Yeah, both Christa and I have our books open, and there'll be links to, and there is on the start and end screens as well, links to us if you want to get more details and information. And the other thing is that not all these transits affect everybody, because it does depend on where your planets are in your chart. So you don't have to think that everything is activating everything in your chart. But certainly if you've got a lot of placements in this, it might feel like it this month. because like Christa says, it's raining on your chart in these places.
So this week is a little lighter. We've got some dignity changes. The first one that we'll look at is the sun has left Leo where it is at home and goes into Virgo. So this is the inception chart of the sun going into Virgo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's losing some dignity there. It's because it's left its domicile, but it is in its own decan. And as we said before, the ingress chart carries the themes and the energy for the full transit. So the fact that it has got the dignity, we call it the essential dignity of being in its own decan, that gives it some energy for the first 10 days, but also it kind of carries it through the time in Virgo, I think.
It also, because Pluto is still there in Aquarius, that this year is the first time any of us have experienced the sun opposite Pluto. And so the entire time that the sun is in Leo, it has been opposing Pluto by whole sign house. Pluto has been at 1 or 0 degrees for a while now. So it, even at that 29th degree of Leo, it's still opposing Pluto. So once it moves over into Virgo, yes, it's leaving home, but maybe it's not in direct opposition to Pluto. It will go into an opposition to Saturn in September, but that's a different story, which we won't talk about today.
Yeah, and
but
we've all experienced those Saturn oppositions. It's this Pluto Sun, Leo Sun opposition. And I must admit, as a Leo Sun myself, but my planets are in the last degrees. So intellectually, I hadn't really thought that an early degree Pluto in Aquarius would be a problem for me. But hearing you talk about it before, I've realized as the sun's been traveling over those last degree planets, I've really felt that whole sign opposition. And hadn't recognized it because it's new.
Yeah.
It's a new thing I haven't experienced before, and it's different.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn how to live with that, because I've got to buckle up for the next 20 years now.
We all do. Yeah. In addition to not having the sun opposite Pluto, we will have Neptune opposite Venus, which I actually think is kind of a nice dreamy opposition that Venus will get after her kind of hard scrabble, resourceful adventure through Virgo that she's had all month. So Neptune is a very slow planet. It's been in Pisces for a long time. It will ingress into Aries. Is it 2025, March 2025? Or is it even later? It's probably next year. But it's been at this 29th degree for a very long time. So when Venus, which exalts in Pisces, so it's the exaltation ruler of Pisces, is opposite Neptune there at that 29th degree, I just feel like this is a nice stick your head in the sand, get lost in some sort of dreamy escape as kind of a reprieve of what work Venus has had to do in Virgo, because then when she goes into Libra, she'll be at home. But I just think it's a nice kind of juicy, dreamy, possibly, erotic escapism of Venus and Neptune there.
We were talking about it before, as like feeling like a spa day is needed, that kind of really treating yourself. In terms of archetypes, I've got like sacred love and love as a mystical force, like where you want something deeper from your relationship, not a shallow relationship. You want it really to move you on a deeper level. I've also got a quote from Plato, which I found quite sweet and relevant, which was, if anything besides absolute beauty is beautiful, it is so simply because it partakes of absolute beauty.
Oh, I love that.
It was just like, oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm also seeing there's a nice little trine from Uranus there in Taurus, which is the sign that Venus rules. So there's a little bit of a kind of lightning bolt energy kind of being given to Venus there. So Venus can see its house of Taurus that it rules and its house of Pisces that it rules, and it's about to go home into Libra where it will gain dignity. But this opposition is a nice fleeting transit that will, it happens once a year, just like the Saturn Sun opposition happens once a year. But in this particular, at that last degree, just feels like this old familiar opportunity for escape, and it just feels very, very nice for Venus to get kind of a day off before her vacation, is what it feels like.
Yeah, they met on the 3rd of April.
Mm.
I can remember sort of talking about that, like the sweet sensitiveness of it, but also the possibility, like the shadow side, it's like the rose tinted glasses, or here we call beer goggles, you know, people
right.
don't drink too much and regret their actions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, watch out for that, but you know, lean into it if your Lancelot turns up.
Yeah. Well, so then this happens August 28th, and then an hour later, no,
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
45 minutes later. 45 minutes later, Venus is still there in Mercury's sign. Mercury is now direct at 21, which is kind of a number that's been coming up through these forecasts, of that 21 degree. I like the idea that Neptune and Venus got into a conversation and Mercury heard it like through the wind, like, wait a minute, turning around and having to go back in and check on to see what this story is actually going to reveal. So I like Mercury. Mercury went retrograde early in the month and it's going direct late in the month. So the whole of August is being colored by that retrograde Mercury. Mostly it's been in Leo. It turned retrograde at 4 degrees Virgo. So it's primarily been in Leo here, and then it will go back through and cazimi the sun later on in September, October, maybe. So yeah, what's your thought of having kind of that direct Mercury about to pick up speed once again?
Yes, it's nice because obviously it's a morning star there. Yeah, it'll be a morning star, but it's because it's faster than the sun at the moment, as it starts to pick up speed, so it will overtake the sun. We'll get another cazimi, and then it will be traveling as an evening star back in the direction that it came from. So it'll be happier as an evening star, because I think it is, isn't it usually happier as an evening star? I usually experience it as happier as an evening star.
No, I think Venus is happier as an evening star. I think that, I think like Mercury, it can just go both ways.
Yeah, Mercury just is so binary like that. But yeah, for some reason I just had it in my head. I don't know if that's just my personal preference, that I enjoy more, reach him easier as an evening star, but that is a morning star in my chart, so there's no rhyme or reason to that.
Well, as an evening star, it means that you could just have sight of him more.
Yeah.
As a morning star, he gets overshadowed by the light. So at this point, he's 21 degrees Leo and the sun is at 6. So that's 15 degrees away. So we will be able to see him ideally at that. But then as it moves closer to the sun, so it's like we get this little glimpse of what he's like as that morning star. But yeah, I think I prefer him as an evening star, because how I kind of work with Mercury on an esoteric way is more of kind of being a child of the night and working with dreams and creative projects that are more internal. We all work with Mercury. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're engaging with Mercury.
Yeah.
So like there's all these very external diurnal ways that we experience Mercury. But it's been, having gone through an 8th house Mercury year, what taught me was like how beautiful dark house Mercury can be, and how much magic and how much guidance and how friendly he is if you are willing to play and engage and be puzzled. Dark star or night star Mercury is like a really accessible planet. And so I'm looking forward to when it kazimis the sun again and then becomes that evening star. But at this point, it will be visible most likely because it's out of combustion. But then pretty quickly it'll become combust again. But I just like that we end the month with, okay, well now he's going to go direct. He's done his job.
Yeah, but of course, once it goes into Virgo, Mercury will be in his own chariot, so we won't have the negative effects of that combustion. It won't be so clear. So we'll start to understand what the kazimis have been about and the retrograde was about, and we'll get more information. And we'll also feel that lifting those planets in Gemini as well, the Mars, Jupiter, that I can't say.
Jars and Jupiter.
Yeah, I have to really focus to say that.
Yeah, I mean, so Mercury can look back and see, it's kind of right in between Jupiter and Mars there, and a nice little sextile. Once it goes into Virgo, it'll start to square that later. But yeah, the direction, being able to move forward, helps kind of change the story. Maybe whatever Mercury retrograde brought up in the Gemini house, where you have this like rocket ship energy of Jupiter and Mars together, when it goes direct, there will be kind of a clear forward movement of channeled energy of making those ideas a little bit more actualized, or educated, or more researched, or some sort of movement forward. Yeah. And then we go so that happens at late on the 28th, and then like half a day later we have a direct Mercury still at 21 degrees, but then Venus, who held on and hung out at that last 29th degree opposing Neptune, finally goes home in Libra. And she won't be in Libra for that long, but she'll be at home for a good spell before she goes into the sign of her exile in Scorpio. But in the moment, getting into Libra, away from the opposition from Neptune, she's trining Pluto immediately. She's trining these other air planets of Jupiter and Mars. Now I just want to call them Jupiter and jars. I feel like she's just kind of a much freer, just to be at home and just to kind of put her feet up and read poetry just before she even unpacks her bags. Just let me get lost in something that is easy for me to enjoy. I do really like that instant trine to Pluto there.
Yeah, it's the first time we've seen, apart from like that whole sign opposition from Leo, it's the first time we've seen Pluto. The conversation this month, which for such a busy month, is quite something really, that he's managed to stay in the shadows.
I'm kind of grateful personally that we're not talking about Pluto so much.
Yeah. And with a trine as well being of the nature of Jupiter, it's not a hard aspect. So it's not too challenging. From a nice benefic in her own domicile, it's not something we should experience as difficult. It's more an opportunity, maybe just something easy.
Yeah.
Something nice and benefic. A gift, and thought, an insight.
And I think that Libra risings need this. Having the South Node transit your first house for quite a while, it feels just kind of this fatigue. And to have Libra have Venus come home in Libra, I feel like this will just feel extra thirst quenching for Libra risings. I feel like they need a break. And at the end of the month, they might get that break. So having all those air planets can be very activating, but something about Venus transiting your first house is a very lovely thing, regardless of where your first house is. She rarely brings a bad time. She usually brings ease. Her aspect is the sextile, which is kind of what can we create together. But having that supportive trine from Pluto just feels like a nice little jolt of power. Before Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn, which will then square that Libra house. But for now, end of August, I feel like Libra risings will have kind of a nice little poetic break, at least to start off September.
Yeah, that's really nice. And it's a nice way to close out the month as well, isn't it? And our first monthly reading. Was there anything else we wanted to say about the month as a whole, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of squares in August just across the board, and it feels like they kind of build up to that full moon moment. And with anything, we can look ahead, and astrologers don't exactly know how transits are going to manifest because they speak to us very differently. And there's only 12 houses in a chart, and there are billions of stories on Earth. So how it manifests for you is going to be quite different than how it manifests for me. And we can do our best as astrologers to kind of give you some sort of a weather update of like, be compassionate for yourself, or, have patience for people, or speak your truth, or we can give you these little catchphrases based on the delineation that we have of the condition of the planet, of the conjunctions, or the other aspects that they're going to make. But ultimately, as a general basic advice for every week this month in August, is to take the wins when you can and know that everything is temporary, and that there may be lots of challenges, but these are challenges of new stories that we get to develop. And so it's not the end of the world. It is an opportunity for us to be able to level up our response to problems. And astrology is a great tool that you can use to kind of help you compassionately respond to issues, as opposed to just simply react. Because a thing about squares is that the tendency to just recoil or respond kind of like a scorpion, just like stinging its tail willy-nilly, instead of being very strategic with how it's going to sting with its tail. Is just I don't know, I would just I would tread carefully, be brave, take your time, and take the wins wherever you can get them.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, I would add, like our teacher Adam Ellenbass talks about a spiral staircase, and that like each time that you come to one of these aspects, you're coming from more experience, more things that have happened to you. You've met these transits before, with the exception of Leo opposite Pluto. So you've got more experience of traveling through them. These are not new to you, and you've lived through them before, you've survived them, you've met the challenges. And each time you meet them, you've got more experience of doing so. So, this is, what was it, the line from Hamlet, there's nothing new under the earth and sun, Horatio.
Yeah.
But with astrology, the combinations of planets is always changing. There's always the absolute combination of the whole chart is always unique to every moment. And I love that anyone's snapshot is totally unique, but each transit, as we pull them apart, they're not unique. They're archetypal, that we've met before, and that's like the beauty of astrology. And we can learn to know that we're exactly where we're meant to be, sometimes even when challenging things come along. If you know that, okay, I recognize this, even if it doesn't make sense what we're saying now, when you come to it, you're like, that's what was said. And that's helped me.
Just like with each transit chart, that's also the possibility of it being someone's birth chart. So someone will have the signature of these moments for their whole life, and it doesn't mean that they're doomed or they're destined for greatness. It means that they have the chance to kind of operate with nuance, and so do we. We get to ride through it because we've already been born with the tools and the roadmap that we have of our own nativity. But I'm hesitant to be so hyperbolic that people need to be fearful. With astrology, I think the opposite is true. I think that you can foresee things that will most likely be challenging, but you know what? We're always going to be surprised and think like, I didn't think that a trine would be so tragic. That also exists because astrology is nuanced, just like life is nuanced. So if you operate from fear, chances are you're not going to react in a very positive way. If you are fearful, but then you operate through bravery, chances are you're gonna kind of come out learning some really great lessons and being fortified and being stronger. And I'm always for practicing compassion, because I feel like compassion is such a muscle that is we can't ever get enough of it. So I feel like chances for compassion this month will be great, especially for yourself, to have grace and compassion for yourself, to go through these potentially difficult times, or just times that ask a lot of energy from you. That could just be that. It could just be tiring. And so whatever you can do to kind of, if taking the win means taking an extra long shower, then do that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Read Jane Eyre in the bath. That's what.
Yes. That is our best recommendation for navigating this time. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Christa. Do you want to remind everyone where to find you?
Sure. You can find me at Practical Astros, practicalastros.com, and all the socials that follow that. And I'm really active on Twitter, and I like to be a place for people to come and complain and send memes and have discussions. And so feel free to kind of engage there. That's where I'm most active. But I have a newsletter. You can sign up at Practical Astros. I have a Substack of the same name. I have a writing project there that's kind of adjacent to my own YouTube channel, going over the decans, interviewing astrologers about different signs. Sonia joined me for Taurus. And so the latest one I have is for Leo, which is with Talu Moat. And then I'll have Terry of Amethyst Tarot and Astrology for Virgo. So you can check those out there. But if you find us through Ask, you can find all the founding members. Sonia and I are just two of them. But yeah, Practical Astros is kind of the general umbrella for where to find me.
Brilliant, thank you. And you can find me at Celestial Astrology, or you probably have if you're watching this. I'll also send the video to Christa, and you may put it on your channel as well, Christa.
Sure.
If you want to. So yeah, you can find me there. And yeah, Christa does amazing tarot readings as well. So don't forget, you can find her for astrology reading and tarot. I do astrology readings and astro mindfulness and also astro coaching, which helps you work with some of these energies as well. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next week, next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the weekly forecast. You often hear creators ask you, could you please like and subscribe? And I can't emphasize enough how important it is for small channels. It really does make the difference to allow us to continue to make free content for you, reach the audience that our content is made for. And we can do this with your help if you've enjoyed it. It gives us immediate feedback on what you're enjoying and what you would like more of. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's a great way for you to support our work and just let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. So if you have enjoyed this content through to the end and you'd like us to keep making it and make more of it, that's a great way for you to let us know. So wherever you're watching this, please do give us a thumbs up and give us your support. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.